Hey, what's going on? I'm back here again with another episode of Craven Some Raven. And in this episode, be doing something a little bit weird, but I'm going to be drafting a wide receiver for the Ravens for each round. Now, I know they don't have a second round pick and they have multiple in certain rounds, but I'm just going to draft one receiver in each round, so 7 total, to have a full draft of wide receivers. Like so who I think has great value and would be an okay pick. And if they made that pick, I'd be like, okay, I'm about that in the first round, second round, third round, fourth round, fifth round, sixth round, seventh round. So I kind of already know like 1 through 3 already. Um, I'm currently working on like 5, 6, and 7. I'm having trouble trying to find those guys. The fourth one, I really don't know because that's that round where there could be tons of people who fall. So I'm just gonna go ahead and kick this bad boy off. Um, so first, I'm gonna break this down, kind of talk about what I was actually looking for in the wide receivers because I think what the Ravens should be looking for. I know what they've already said. They've said they want big, tough, physical ball catchers. Someone who catches the ball first and foremost, and then someone who's willing to block and is big and tough. That's what they said. But in my opinion, I think it goes hands first, obviously. So some people I was watching, they had a few blatant drops, and it's I just took them off the list. I'm putting a lot of work into this, seeing a lot of guys, a lot of people who are deemed as like deep sleepers, checking out every single guy. I'm looking at most, like, physically can't look at everybody just because there's so many guys and that would take too much time. But, certain names pop up over and over again. So I'm checking out all of those guys. But what I'm looking for mostly after not blatantly dropping, concentration drops, any of that bullshit, I'm looking for separation. And the reason for that is the way Lamar Jackson throws the ball, he doesn't throw to guys who appear covered. They might be technically open. So like guys like J.J. Arcega-Whiteside, who's never going to be separated, he might never actually throw to him. So what I'm looking for is someone who gets separation, catches the ball, and then possibly good after the catch because it'd be nice to see a Ravens receiver run after they catch it, which it's been forever since we've had that. So that's kind of what I was looking for, kind of breaking down all these guys, stats and information, something you should know, something I saw. So did a lot of work on this. I'm gonna be like pausing it and doing it, but for you, you're just gonna listen straight through. It's gonna sound hopefully like there's like nothing happened. But doing draft profiles on these guys, kind of going through everything. I'm watching like a couple games at a time. So with that, in the first round at pick number 22, no trades involved. I have them taking Marquise Brown out of Oklahoma. Now, I was thinking DK Metcalf. That would have been my other choice for the first round, but his injury history just took him off the board for me. I don't want another Brashad Perryman to just not be on the field because DK, he's got everything that a bona fide first rounder should have except that injury history. So I have the Ravens taking Marquise Brown out of Oklahoma. And he stands in at 5'11 and 165 pounds. I've seen enough tape on him, so I didn't have to really do much digging. So this is just off of what I know about him. He's small, slender. Everyone knows that, but he is quick. He has what I told you I was looking for, that separation ability. He is always got 5 yards between him and the defender. And once he catches the ball, if he's in stride, he's gone. Even if he's not in stride, if he catches the ball, he's going to make someone look silly, and it's going to be awesome if you're rooting for him. If you're an Oklahoma fan, you know what I'm talking about. Marquise Brown was your dude, and he was super fun to watch. hella good player, uh, especially in that Oklahoma offense, high flying. He's not the best blocker, which I know the Ravens said that's what they're looking for. But value wise, what you're gonna get in Marquise Brown, I'm okay with in the first round. Now, with that said, I'm going to move into the second round. And in the second round, I have them taking Andy Isabella. Now, that may seem rich for him, but here's my thought process. First, he's from UMass. He's 5'9" and 186. So he's shorter than Marquise Brown, but a little bit bulkier. So he got a little extra girth on him. But the reason I have him taking him in the second round, I think he's a second round talent. But if I was doing this on a value base, I would have seen if the Ravens could take him in the third round, that would be perfect. I think because that would match up like value and talent for me. But I don't think he's going to make it to the third round. And if they grab him in the second round, I think they're getting a bona fide number one receiver. He might be out of the slot, but why can't your slot receiver be the number one? Watching his tape, the dude gets open. Like I said, separation. And when he has the ball in his hands, he is elusive and quick. Not in the same way that Marquise Brown is. Marquise Brown's a little bit more speedy. Speed shiftiness. This guy is just cut on a dime, just juke you in short quarters, and tough to bring down. He is like the ultimate profile of a Patriots wide receiver. I hate to say it, but he's kind of like Julian Edelman. And watching him, he's got good hands, and with the ball in his hands, he makes something happen. And I think that's awesome. Now, like with my third round guy, I would actually switch him, but my third round guy is going to be Hakeem Butler. But before I get to him, I'm just gonna try and say this. Like I don't think Hakeem Butler. I think Hakeem Butler is more likely to be in the third round than Andy Isabella is. So I think because of that, I've kind of like flipped those in my eyes. So with Andy Isabella, UMass, so he's not playing the toughest of competition, but you saw him once he went to the Senior Bowl. His practices weren't that great, but when game time came around, he turned it on, and he was the best wide receiver in the Senior Bowl, in my opinion, after watching that game. So, with the third round, the Baltimore Ravens, like you already heard me say, pick Hakeem Butler out of Iowa State. Now, this guy's a monster. He stands in at 6'6", so he's a real tall dude. At 205, so he's a little bit lanky. But I love his upside. He, out of everyone on my list, he, I think, could end up being a true number one. Like a true big dude on campus, number one. In Iowa State's offense, it seemed like they just didn't use him enough. Or, because they would go to him on third down all the freaking time. But it's like, why don't you go to him on any of the other downs? He's still double covered on third down. Why don't you go to him then? Like go to him on second down once in a while. And some things I noted, he's got a great deep ball. His separation, it's not as good as Mark Hollywood's or Andy Isabella's. His separation is just not as good, and I think that's just because he is tall. But he's got good speed, pretty good hands. I saw him drop a few contested balls, but those were contested where the defender had his arms or had his hands. It was a tough catch to make. So that's kind of why I put him at third round, where I think he's going to be available. And I think that would be a good pick for the value. Something else I saw is that he is tough to bring down. Now, when he would catch the ball, it always took 2 or 3 guys to bring him down. He was feisty, like a spin move, turning those legs up and around. That's why it confused me when I'm watching the tape, and he goes several drives without even getting a ball thrown to him. You know, he's not the best blocker. He's willing to do it. He's more of just like a guy in the way. He's not blocking. But I really love his upside, and if we could grab him in the third round, that would be, I think, the best. So, next, fourth round, I struggled with this one, I think the most, but I am going to give it a shot. So, in the fourth round, I have them taking Anthony Ratliff Williams from North Carolina. And originally, I put this guy as a fifth round, but then I was thinking about Chris Moore. He went in the fourth round, and I think this guy is way better than Chris Moore was coming out of college. He stands in at 6'1", 205. I watched his games against Syracuse, and versus Pitt, and some things I wrote down when watching the tape. He's great after the catch. Anytime he has the ball in his hands, he was their kick returner as well, and he did a lot of jet sweeps, and he was very good on those plays. He was always had success. Only one play out of those 2 games when he had a jet sweep, and he just didn't get good blocking. But other than that, when they did those plays, it was successful. Like he's very much part of their game plan. Like he even threw the ball once when he was playing against Syracuse. God, why is that so hard to say? Anyways, he threw the ball. His guy didn't catch it. It was an okay throw, but man, it had some spin on it, you know. He's a decent blocker, nothing special, but he's willing to do it. And they went to him on third down a lot, which is something I noticed. And he seemed like he was the guy. You know, like I said, very much part of their game plan. And he was their guy, like their offensive weapon. So they would always go to him on third down. He's got great hands, you know, very good concentrations. I didn't see, of the 2 games I watched, I didn't see him make any stupid drops, or he was about to get hit and dropped it. A few times I saw him, like he kind of initially caught it and then someone got in his face and he kind of bobbled it, but then caught it again. That means great concentration. He also has a very good jump ball. I saw him make a ton of contested catches up in the air, downfield, middle of the field, everywhere along basically the whole field. I noticed he was very good at finding the soft spot in the zone. So that's why I moved him from what I had, a 5th round, down to a 4th. And I think that'd be a very good pick. I think he would end up being a number 1, number 2, you know, someone, because he was getting double teamed a lot, and he just finds a way to catch the ball, and they just went to him a lot because of that, because he was their guy. And you know, if he's the guy on your team in college, he knows what it's going to be like to be the guy on your offense. You know, will it translate? You know, who knows? That's why I have him going in the 4th, probably because he played for North Carolina. His level of competition wasn't the best, but you play who you play, and he had success against who he played. Now, on to the 5th round. Now, in the 5th round, this is my only, I think, reach. Really, Andy Isabella was kind of a reach, but I think not as bad as this. So in the 5th round, I have the Ravens drafting Jalen Smith out of Louisville. He stands in at 6'4", 223 pounds. And really, the only reason I'm doing this is because him and Lamar Jackson played together in college. And I think that comfortability, that chemistry that's already built up is huge. He's not the best wide receiver in any sense. He's more of a 7th round, I think, kind of guy. You know, maybe even undrafted. No, I think he might go in the 7th round. But I think you got to reach. I think you got to reach for this guy just because of that connection they already have. I think it's okay to take a gamble like that, and I would totally be okay with that. I know Ravens fans are with me. You know, maybe I should have moved him to the 6th, but I have some other guys here who I think you'd like in the 6th round. So I got no other I got no other things on him. He's not. I saw him drop a few passes, like tough catches. He still dropped them. He's not elite in catching, but he knows Lamar. He knows how to get open once he starts running around because they did it before, and he had his best years with Lamar. Like his stats once Lamar left, way worse. So I'm going off his kind of Lamar stats and the way he played for him, and he was great at catching the ball. But every once in a while, like some of his newer tape, he would just drop it. I don't know what that is. Maybe it's just what happens. He didn't have the best Senior Bowl either. So it's kind of a reach in the 5th round. But I think I would be willing to take that if I was Eric DeCosta and the Ravens front office in the 2019 draft. I would be willing to take a flyer on this guy just to get Lamar Jackson as comfortable as possible to make this offense tailored towards him. Now, for the 6th round, the Baltimore Ravens draft another wide receiver. What do you know? Weird. They take Jakobi Meyers out of NC State. He stands in at 6'2", 203 pounds. And the only reason I really know about this guy, there's a huge list of players that you can go through. You kind of do like a quick look at them. But the reason he stood out is because I was actually watching tape on Kelvin Harmon, his teammate. And it was a game, I forget who they were playing, but Jakobi Meyers was the guy that game. Kelvin Harmon's supposed to be this top 10 wide receiver, but yet his teammate Jakobi Meyers is making all these plays. So his one negative that I saw, he's not much of a blocker. He'll do it, but he's not good at it. A lot of the times, like when the runner was coming by him, he kind of had his hands on the defender, but his defender just shook him off and made the tackle. So not a great blocker, but he's a wide receiver, not a lineman. His positives, he's got great hands in traffic. He went over the middle a lot, like outside middle area. And he caught a lot of passes with a lot of defenders around him. Another positive thing, when he catches the ball, he tries to stay on his feet super hard. Like he'll catch the ball, and like the way the games I watched him versus Texas A&M and Virginia. He would catch the ball and it'd be versus like zone. So there'd be like 3 guys around him, and he's super feisty once he catches the ball. He didn't break any huge runs, but it took all 3 of those guys to get him down. He uses crazy spin move, and he just looked real feisty. And I like seeing players with some feist to him. And especially if you can get this guy in the 6th round, because I think that's kind of where he'll go, like maybe 5th, 6th round. I think value-wise, 6th round is where you want him in this draft. I'd be willing to take him there and would be happy. I would love that pick. So... Oh, and also one play I took note of it. They threw a pass to him. His quarterback is stupid. Threw a pass and totally got picked off. He wasn't open at all. I don't know why he threw it to him. But what I saw was him. No, they weren't even passing to him. I'm thinking of a different play, a different player, which I'll actually get to in the 7th round. But the pass got picked off. It wasn't passed to him, but he ran this dude down and made the tackle. That's something I like to see. I like to see your players play. Even when shit hits the fan, you need someone who's willing to play. And he seemed like the only one trying to run this guy down, and he made the tackle. So that was a positive, and I really liked that. So in the 7th round, I was having trouble with this one a lot. I have like 3-4 guys that I was looking at that I'd be okay with them taking. But I ended up having them pick Emmanuel Butler out of NAU, so small school guy. He stands in at 6'4", 220. So he's not small school size. He's a big feller. So some negatives, level of competition, obviously. He's not the best blocker. I think he's better than what Jakobi Meyers was. But I think that's just because of his size. He's an outside receiver most of the time. They always had him on the outside. He didn't track the long ball the best. There was just one play in particular where it looked like he could have ran a better route, or maybe he didn't think the ball was going as far as it did, and it ended up being an overthrow. But that was just one play. The rest of the time, it seemed like he was where he was supposed to be. But I put that down as a negative. Um, so positives, he's a man amongst boys at that level. He's the guy on that team, as well he should be. But I mean, that's a positive. You should show out against smaller competition. You should be a big fish in a small pond if you are the big fish in a small pond. He broke records at NAU in receiving yards. I think this might be his total. So we got 3,157 yards total and 32 touchdowns. I think that's in 3 seasons, so good numbers. Even if it's in 4 seasons, still great numbers. He's got a very good jump ball. So when the ball's in the air, he goes up and gets it. I think that's a level of competition type thing. But he still did it. You play who you play. Now, why this guy's at a small school, I don't know. Maybe he had some off-field issues that I didn't find, or I didn't really look, but nothing popped up. Like one of these other guys who I'm going to mention here after this, like some undrafted guys. That's like when you Google them, it pops up. So another positive, he was very tough to tackle because of his size. That also might be because of the level of competition. But I'd like to see some more separation from him with his size advantage. But what stood out to me was when I was watching, I just wrote the word swag and underlined it. I know it's like an old school term nowadays, but he plays with swag. Like, where he catches the ball and he'll just stop for a second and look at the cornerback like, you see that motherfucker? Like, what's good, bitch? Like, you little fucking bitch. Like, he's got some feisty swag to him. And I like that. I like a receiver who has that. So, I think he could have balled out a little bit more due to the competition. But in the 7th round, he's got good size for the position, and he's got swag. And, since he is a smaller school guy, he's going to have to fight no matter what. He's going to have to fight his way onto the roster, and he's done that before. He's always overlooked because he's one of those guys. So, some names I want to mention. I had him listed in the 7th round, and just kind of like, man, who do I want to pick before I ended up with Emmanuel Butler? I wrote down Cavante Turpin out of TCU. Now, this guy, he's like a small dude, only 5'9", 153, and he'd be a good candidate for like an undrafted guy. But as I was doing my research, I saw that he was arrested for assaulting his girlfriend. So I think in the Ravens' eyes, they're probably not going to ever bring him in because of that fact. But I just want to mention his name and kind of some of his... Real small, 5'9", 153, so really small. So he's quicker and shiftier than everyone else. So he's got elite shiftiness in the open field. He's got great hands. He's a great punt returner, and he's great at getting open because of that quickness. So yeah, his only negative is that he's really small and that he hit his girlfriend. So that's the only reason I took him off the board. I didn't realize that. I wouldn't have even done any research on him if I would have known that. Another 7th round guy I had, but probably would be better as undrafted, was Stanley Morgan Jr. out of Nebraska. I watched him against Ohio State. That wasn't his best game, definitely. But he did catch a TD over Denzel Ward, which I thought was noteworthy, because we saw how successful Denzel Ward was. And against Colorado and Iowa, he seemed like the guy. Great effort, dude. Like against Colorado, he was going to the corner of the end zone, and the way the stadium is, there's a wall kind of right there that you can kind of hit over almost. And the ball was thrown out of bounds, but he was sprinting full speed, and he went over that wall and smacked himself. which I thought, just showed great effort and willingness to kind of put his body out on the line, which is something you would want. So, oh yeah, he's 6 foot 195, so he's a decent sized dude. So maybe someone you um, want to watch for an undrafted guy. Let's see. Yeah, great game against Iowa. I just wrote that down. He did have a good game against Iowa. Let's see. Yeah, and another thing I noticed, they went to him on third down a lot, which is a sign of your coaches trusting you. Something that you want to see in a wide receiver, especially if you're drafting in the 7th round or undrafted. If he's getting the ball a lot, that means a lot of good things for you. They trust him, so you should too. And another guy I had in the 7th round, who I was kind of back and forth with mainly this guy and Emmanuel Butler, but ended up with Emmanuel Butler, is this dude Jalen Hurd out of Baylor. He stands in at 6'4", 217. I really only watched him versus Texas and then like his highlight reel. But his one negative was that he's not a good blocker. He's just not. I mean, but he's also a wide receiver, so go fuck yourself. But the positives I wrote down is he gets open. He doesn't look very fast, so maybe that's a negative, but he just gets open. And when he gets the ball, he is super tough to bring down. And like something to that is something they did, which I thought was weird. They used him as a running back a lot. And, at 6'4", 217, he's tall and skinny. He looks tall and skinny. He looks like a wide receiver. He doesn't look like a running back. But they used him as a running back. But the way they used him as a running back, you'd think like jet sweeps and like going outside. No. In short yardage situations, so goal line and like 3rd and short, they put him in at running back. And he runs north and south. He looks like a knife when he's running. It's the craziest thing I've ever seen, because he's like at like a 30-degree angle to the ground. Like, so he's lower than 45. He's not straight up and down. He is getting super low, and he's slippery. So because he's like almost knifing through everybody, he just slips through tackles, and he gets great short yardage yards. Like a lot of times, he was picking up 5-yard gains on those short yards. So I thought that was very interesting. I thought that was cool, but I just didn't think that the Ravens would ever use him in that way. So I had Emmanuel Butler over him, just because he's more of a wide receiver, and that small school aspect of those guys always tend to work harder. So that was my 7-round draft of receivers. Just to run it down again, I had 1st round Marquise Brown, 2nd round Andy Isabella, 3rd round Hakeem Butler, 4th round Anthony Ratliff-Williams, 5th round Jalen Smith, 6th round Jacoby Myers, and 7th round Emmanuel Butler. I'm hoping the Ravens draft at least 2 wide receivers, and I'm hoping 2 of these names are called for the Ravens, for the Baltimore Ravens. All right, so that's going to do it. That was actually really cool. I don't know if I'm going to do this for all the positions, because O-line, that ain't fun to watch. Receivers are flashy, so they're fun to watch, and it's one of the biggest needs for the Ravens now, because they got rid of Crabtree, and I think they're probably going to get rid of John Brown, so they need to bring in some wide receivers. So that was a lot of fun. Maybe I'll do it for running backs. Other than that, I don't. Cornerback's not too big of a need. Safety, I don't really know what I'm looking for. I'm no professional, even wide receivers, but it was fun to do. Maybe I will. I'll keep you updated. So I think that's going to do it for this podcast. If you got any questions, if you want to hit me up, talk to me, say what's up, support the podcast, subscribe wherever you're listening, like it, comment, all of that shit helps. If you want to, like I said, you want to get in touch, have me talk a question, like if you have a question and you want me to answer it, I'll answer it on a podcast. Just send me an email at csrpod@gmail.com. That's spelled csrpod@gmail.com. I haven't set up a social media. I don't think I ever will. Sorry, it's a little bit inconvenient to write an email, but I see this podcast as something I do on the side for fun. I don't want it to be work. I mean, it was a lot of work putting this list together, but I enjoy it because I love watching football, and the draft is exciting to me. But once I get to like editing and setting up social media, and I don't like social media in my personal life, so I just ain't gonna do that. So just send me an email, which I know it's tough for you. I already gave you the email address, but I'll give it again, csrpod@gmail.com. Or if you really like the show and really just want more content and you want to support me, the pod, maybe I'll get a mic one of these days, hit me up on Venmo. My Venmo account is Stephen-Owings-1. That's spelled STEPHEN OWINGS-1. Thanks, have a great day, and I hope you enjoyed.